The dust of a fallen age settles, revealing a world scarred, yet ready for new life.
In the aftermath of the Great Extinction, the planet breathes again, its climate shifting towards a warm, humid future.
The supercontinent Pangaea remained whole, a vast stage for the next chapter of evolution. Among the survivors were small, agile reptiles, carrying the genetic legacy that would soon dominate the Earth. The flora of this new era was different. Resilient ferns and cycads formed the foundation of the Jurassic ecosystem. With predators scarce, the first herbivorous dinosaurs found a world of limitless sustenance. Their bodies were small, but their potential for growth was immense, a blueprint for the giants to come.
Rivers carved new paths through the arid interior of the continent, creating vital corridors of life.
The age of dinosaurs had dawned before, but this was a rebirth, a second chance on a planetary scale. Life's expansion was slow but relentless, driven by an abundance of space and the warmth of a younger sun. The key to dominance was size. In a world without widespread grasses, height meant access to untouched canopies of food. This evolutionary pressure began to favor larger and larger forms, initiating an arms race measured in tons.
The first true giants emerged, the sauropods. Their arrival would permanently reshape the landscape.
Their skeletal structures evolved to support immense weight, with hollowed-out bones providing strength without density. Gigantic hearts pumped tirelessly, circulating blood along necks that stretched towards the sky. Their long tails acted as perfect counterbalances, providing stability as they moved across uneven terrain. A constant intake of food was necessary to fuel these colossal bodies, making every waking hour a search for sustenance. But they were not alone. In the shadows of the giants, new predators were evolving.
Dilophosaurus, an early theropod, was one of the first large carnivores of the Jurassic. Though not large enough to hunt adult sauropods, it posed a threat to the young and the weak.
The world was finding a new balance, a complex dance between the immense plant eaters and their hunters.
The oceans, too, were teeming with new forms of life, including the first ichthyosaurs.
These marine reptiles, shaped like dolphins, were perfectly adapted for life in the warm Jurassic seas.
Alongside them were the plesiosaurs, with their long necks and paddle-like limbs. On the land, the air was beginning to fill with the sound of early pterosaurs, soaring on leathery wings.
The Jurassic was not just an age of giants, but an age of incredible diversity, filling every corner of the planet.
The climate's high oxygen levels may have been a key factor in allowing these animals to reach such enormous sizes.
As Pangaea began to slowly rift apart, new seas formed, creating more coastlines and changing weather patterns.
This continental drift isolated populations, driving evolution in new and spectacular directions.
The sauropod herds were constantly on the move, their migrations carving paths through the endless fern savannas.
Their massive feet compacted the soil, creating depressions that filled with water, forming small, temporary ponds.
These small acts of engineering, multiplied by millions, reshaped the drainage of entire landscapes.
The giants were not just inhabitants of their world, they were its principal architects.
Life flourished in their footsteps. Small mammals, ancestors to us all, found shelter in the world the dinosaurs made.
The first stegosaurs also appeared, their unique forms a new experiment in defense.
These bony plates were not armor, but likely served for display or to regulate body temperature.
The balance of power was shifting. As herbivores grew larger and more diverse, so too did the predators.
The mid-Jurassic saw the rise of the first true carnosaurs. Dinosaurs like Megalosaurus.
They were larger, stronger, and more formidable than any predator that had come before.
The stage was now set for the titans of the late Jurassic, an era when giants would truly rule the Earth.
The world's flora was dominated by gymnosperms, conifers, cycads, and ginkgos, providing endless food for herbivores.
Sauropods developed specialized methods of feeding, such as stripping entire branches with peg-like tooth fossils.
They did not chew their food, but swallowed it whole, relying on stomach stones called gastroliths to grind it down.
This efficient digestive system allowed them to process vast quantities of low-nutrient plant material. The emergence of flowering plants was still millions of years in the future, and this was a world of greens and browns.
Smaller herbivores, like the early ornithopods, browsed on lower vegetation, avoiding competition with the giants.
Speed and agility were their primary defenses against the growing threat of mid-sized predators.
The Jurassic ecosystem was becoming increasingly layered, with different species occupying specific niches.
In the rivers and swamps, ancient crocodiles grew to enormous sizes, waiting patiently for prey.
These were ambush predators, a danger to any dinosaur that came to the water's edge to drink.
The air was filled with a diverse array of insects, including giant dragonflies with impressive wingspans. The planet's heartbeat was slow and powerful, measured in the long lives of its largest inhabitants. Sauropod nesting grounds were often vast, open areas where dozens of individuals would lay their eggs.
They laid clutches of round, hard-shelled eggs, burying them in soil or vegetation to incubate.
The survival of the species depended on the sheer number of offspring, as parental care was likely minimal.
These hatchlings were tiny, vulnerable, and a primary food source for many small predators.
Only a fraction of 1% would survive the perilous journey to adulthood.
But for those that did, a long life of grazing and wandering the Jurassic plains awaited.
The cycle of life, on a truly gigantic scale, was the defining feature of this lost world.
By the late Jurassic, sauropods had diversified into many forms, including some of the largest land animals of all time.
Brachiosaurus was a high browser, with its longer front legs and steeply angled neck, designed to reach the tops of the tallest trees.
In contrast, Diplodocus held its neck more horizontally, like a long boom, sweeping through low to medium-height vegetation.
Its whip-like tail, over 40 feet long, may have been a formidable defensive weapon.
Apatosaurus was more robust and heavily built, a massive, powerful grazer of the floodplains.
The presence of these giants created open, park-like environments, preventing forests from becoming impenetrably dense.
This was the Morrison Formation of North America, one of the richest sources of dinosaur fossils in the world.
Each fossil tells a part of the story, a silent testament to the scale and majesty of this bygone era. Living alongside the sauropods was the iconic Stegosaurus, with its double row of plates and spiked tail. Its primary defense was the thagomizer, 4 long spikes at the end of its powerful tail.
And there was a predator in this world, large enough to make even a Stegosaurus cautious.
The apex predator of the late Jurassic was a fearsome hunter, Allosaurus.
Agile and powerful, with a large skull filled with serrated tooth fossils, Allosaurus was a formidable killing machine.
Fossil evidence shows that it regularly hunted stegosaurs and even young or sick sauropods.
A hunt begins. The Allosaurus uses cover to approach a lone Stegosaurus, staying low to the ground.
The confrontation was a battle of specialized weapons. The predator's claws and bite against the prey's armor and spikes.
This was the reality of the Jurassic, a constant, high-stakes struggle for survival played out amongst giants.
Even the mighty Allosaurus had rivals, such as the slightly larger but rarer Torvosaurus. Ceratosaurus, a smaller predator easily identified by the prominent horn on its snout. These different predators likely specialized in different prey, reducing direct competition and allowing for coexistence. The world was in a state of equilibrium, a perfectly balanced ecosystem of colossal proportions. Volcanic activity was common, periodically blanketing the landscape in ash, which helped create the fossils we find today. These ash falls, while devastating locally, enriched the soil over the long term, supporting lush plant growth. The seasons were less pronounced than today, with a generally stable, warm climate across much of the globe. There were no polar ice caps, and sea levels were much higher, creating vast, shallow inland seas.
These warm seas were home to vast coral reefs and an abundance of marine life, including ammonites.
It was a world of giants, not just on land, but also in the sea. The pliosaur,
At night, the world transformed. The great herbivores rested, while smaller, nocturnal creatures emerged.
The sounds of the day were replaced by a softer, more mysterious chorus.
Communication between the giants was likely through deep, low-frequent sounds that could travel for miles.
A language of giants, lost to time, echoing across the vast, silent plains of the past. The sky above was different too. The constellations were unfamiliar, the moon slightly closer to the Earth.
The air itself was denser, richer in oxygen, making wildfires more common and intense.
But fire was also a force for renewal, clearing away old growth and making way for new life. Social behavior among dinosaurs is debated, but fossil trackways suggest many sauropods moved in herds.
These herds were likely structured with the largest, strongest adults on the outside and the vulnerable young in the center. This social structure was a crucial defense against the large predators that stalked them.
For 50 million years, this world of giants thrived, a long, stable reign of the largest creatures ever to walk the earth.
The first birds had also evolved, small, feathered dinosaurs like Archaeopteryx, flitting through the undergrowth.
They were not yet masters of the sky, but they represented a significant evolutionary leap, the beginning of a new dynasty. The Age of Giants was a complete and vibrant world, filled with wonders great and small, a testament to life's boundless potential.
The immense weight of the giants required strong, pillar-like legs, positioned directly beneath the body for maximum support.
Their skin was not scaly like a lizard's, but more likely pebbly or wrinkled, similar to that of an elephant.
Water was a central feature of their lives, providing relief from the heat and a place to drink and socialize.
The concept of sauropods living entirely in water is now outdated. They were fully terrestrial animals.
Pterosaurs were not dinosaurs, but a parallel group of flying reptiles that dominated the Jurassic skies.
They ranged in size from tiny insect eaters to creatures with impressive wingspans, filling the role that birds occupy today.
The world beneath the trees was a complex place of shadow and filtered light, home to smaller dinosaurs and other creatures. Camouflage was a key survival tool for many smaller animals in this world, ruled by sight-based predators.
Even the giants may have used patterns and coloration, not for hiding, but for communication and species recognition.
Every fossil is a puzzle piece, and together they create a picture of a world both alien and strangely familiar.
The immense pressure of a sauropod's foot could leave impressions that would last for millions of years.
These trace fossils provide invaluable clues about behavior, posture, and walking speed,
A moment of prehistoric life, frozen in stone. A herd moving, a predator stalking, a creature resting.
The head of a sauropod was remarkably small compared to its body, a necessity to keep the long neck light. Their simple, peg-like tooth fossils were for raking and stripping, not for chewing, and were replaced constantly throughout their lives.
The world they inhabited was one of constant, slow-motion consumption, a landscape being perpetually eaten and regrown. The end of the Jurassic period was not marked by a great extinction, but by gradual changes in climate and sea level.
Some of the iconic giants, like Allosaurus and Stegosaurus, would eventually fade away.
But their legacy would continue as new types of dinosaurs rose to take their place in the Cretaceous world to come. The Age of Giants was a beginning, a time when life on Earth tested the very limits of size and scale.
The sheer biomass of plant life required to sustain this ecosystem was staggering, far exceeding anything on Earth today.
Giant horsetails, tree ferns, and towering conifers formed a multi-layered canopy of nourishment.
An old sauropod, scarred from many battles, moves slowly but deliberately, a walking mountain of experience.
The air sacs in the bones of both sauropods and theropods were a key innovation, lightening the skeleton and aiding respiration. This bird-like respiratory system was far more efficient than our own, providing the oxygen needed for an active, giant lifestyle.
A moment of stillness. A herd of Brachiosaurus sauropods rests during the midday heat.
The smallest details bring this world to life. The insects on the leaves, the ripples in the water, the texture of the bark.
For the dinosaurs, this was simply their world, the normal, everyday reality of their existence.
The Morrison Formation landscape was a seasonal floodplain, with distinct wet and dry seasons that drove migrations. During the dry season, dinosaurs would congregate around the last remaining water sources, creating a tense truce.
The discovery of fossilized embryos inside eggs has offered unprecedented insight into dinosaur development.
These fossils show that hatchlings had different body proportions than adults, suggesting they occupied a different ecological niche.
The journey from a tiny hatchling to a 100-foot adult was one of the most remarkable transformations in the history of life.
Not all giants lived on land. In the seas, the fish Leadcythus was a filter feeder that reached the Jurassic seas were a dangerous place, with predators like Metriorhynchus, a fully marine crocodile.
The breakup of Pangaea was a slow, inexorable process, driven by the powerful forces of plate tectonics.
This continental drift not only shaped the world we know, but it was the engine of evolution for the dinosaurs themselves.
The diversity of the late Jurassic was a P in the Age of Dinosaurs, a golden era for the giants. An Allosaurus rests in the shade of a rock outcropping, its hunt successful, its gaze watchful.
Intelligence is difficult to measure, but predators like Allosaurus had relatively large brains for their time, suggesting complex behaviors.
In the quiet moments, we can imagine the world as they saw it, a world of immense scale, vibrant life, and constant watchfulness. Monsoonal rains would have transformed the dry plains into lush wetlands, triggering a boom in plant life and insect populations. Emerging after the deluge, the Stegosaurus quenched their thirst under the brief promise of a double rainbow.
The study of paleontology is a continuous process of discovery, with each new fossil refining our understanding.
Through science, we can reach back across the abyss of time and glimpse the magnificence of this lost age. The Jurassic was a chapter in Earth's long story, a time when reptiles evolved to a scale never seen before or since. Their dominance was total, their adaptations perfectly suited to the warm, green world they inhabited.
They were a successful and enduring dynasty, ruling the planet for tens of millions of years.
Though their worlding gone, their story is written in the rocks of the earth, waiting to be read.
This was the Jurassic, the heart of the Mesozoic era, when the reign of the dinosaurs reached its...
While the Morrison Formation tells one story, the reign of giants was a global phenomenon, written on every continent.
In the forests of what would become Asia, different titans evolved in parallel, a testament to life's radiating power.
Manchosaurus had one of the longest necks of any animal in history, reaching up to 50 feet.
It was hunted by predators like Yangchuanosaurus, a large carnivore closely related to North America's Allosaurus.
The ecological roles were the same, giant browsers and fierce predators, but the actors on this stage were different.
In Europe, a shallow sea created an archipelago of islands, leading to unique, smaller forms of dinosaurs.
Europasaurus, a small sauropod, was an example of insular dwarfism, adapting its size to the limited resources of its island home.
Life adapts not only to predators and prey, but to the very land itself, a constant negotiation with geography.
The southern supercontinent, Gondwana, had its own unique fauna, adapted to drier, more seasonal environments.
This sauropod had an unusually short neck, a specialization that allowed it to avoid competition with high-browsing giants.
The world was a mosaic of interconnected, yet distinct ecosystems, each a unique experiment in evolution.
Let's return to the giants. Their sheer size posed unique biological challenges, starting with blood pressure.
To pump blood 30 feet up to its head, a Brachiosaurus would have needed a powerful heart and incredibly high blood pressure.
The simple act of bending down to drink and raising its head again would have been a major physiological event. Another challenge was heat. A giant body generates immense metabolic warmth and dissipates it slowly.
Features like the plates of a Stegosaurus or the long necks and tails of sauropods may have doubled as giant radiators to shed excess heat.
Wading in deep water would have been another effective way to cool their massive bodies during the hottest parts of the day. The question of whether dinosaurs were warm or cold-blooded is complex. Giants like these were likely something in between.
Their sheer mass would have retained heat effectively, a strategy known as gigantothermy.
The world in the shadow of the giants was just as diverse and fascinating. Early mammals, though small and nocturnal, were diversifying rapidly. They were not yet our direct ancestors, but they represented the future, surviving and adapting in a world not their own. Sphenodontians, relatives of the modern tuatara, were common, lizard-like reptiles of the forest floor.
The sounds of the Jurassic undergrowth were a symphony of clicks, buzzes, and rustles from countless insects and arthropods.
Early frogs and salamanders thrived in the damp wetlands created by the giants.
Social dynamics within the great herds were likely complex, involving display, communication, and hierarchy. In the golden hour, a mother's gentle touch guides the next generation, ensuring the survival of the herd.
Disease and injury were constant threats. Fossil evidence shows signs of infections, fractures, and even predatory attacks.
An old, ailing Stegosaurus limps towards a waterhole, its herd having moved on without it.
In this world, nothing went to waste. The end of one life was the beginning of many others.
The very air carried the seeds of the future. Pollen from conifers and cycads drifted on the wind, a silent global broadcast. This was a world without flowers. Color in the plant kingdom came from autumn-like foliage, cones, and the vibrant greens of new growth.
Play is not exclusive to mammals. Young dinosaurs may have engaged in playful behavior, honing skills for adulthood.
The senses of these animals were finely tuned to their world. Allosaurus had a keen sense of smell, crucial for locating prey.
Sauropods, with eyes positioned on the sides of their heads, had a wide, panoramic field of view to watch for danger.
We can only imagine the dreams of a sleeping giant, a mind processing a world of immense scale and primal urgency.
The dawn of a new day. The nocturnal creatures retreat to their burrows as the sun's first rays touch the landscape. The morning routine begins. A search for food, a visit to the waterhole, a constant, watchful awareness.
The footprints they left behind tell us not just about their size, but about their posture and the way they walked.
They did not drag their tails. They were held aloft, acting as a crucial counterbalance to their long necks. The Age of Giants was not a static period. It was a time of constant, gradual change. As the Jurassic drew to a close, the world was changing. The continents continued to drift, and new mountains were rising. These changes altered weather patterns and the flow of rivers, creating new habitats and closing off old ones. Some species adapted and thrived, while others, like the Great Stegosaurs, began a slow decline.
The future belonged to new groups, like the armored ankylosaurs and the horned ceratopsians, which were just beginning to appear. The great sauropods would continue, but even they would evolve, giving rise to the mighty titanosaurs of the Cretaceous.
The end of an era is rarely sudden. It is a long, slow twilight.
But the legacy of the Jurassic is immortal. It was the time when life reached for the sky and achieved a scale that defies imagination.
Their fossil bones are the pillars that hold up our understanding of deep time, a tangible connection to a lost world.
A world of giants, powered by ferns and sunlight, that forever changed the course of evolution on planet Earth.
The colossal apatosaurs were not just eaters. They were farmers of a sort, their grazing patterns promoting the growth.
Their dung, produced in enormous quantities, was a vital source of nutrients, fertilizing the landscape and feeding a complex ecosystem of insects. This constant cycling of nutrients was the engine of the Jurassic, allowing the flora to support the immense weight of the fauna.
A moment of conflict not between predator and prey, but between rivals. Two adult stegosaurs display aggressively towards each other over territory.
The brain of a stegosaurus was famously small, but it was perfectly adequate for the life it led, focused on eating, defense, and procreation.
The sky was not always safe. Some larger pterosaurs, like Pterodactylus itself, were coastal hunters, skimming for fish.
The shoreline of the Jurassic was a place of immense beauty, a frontier between the giants of the land and the monsters of the deep. Giant ammonites, with shells several feet in diameter, drifted through the shallow seas, prey for the great marine reptiles.
An ichthyosaur gives birth, not to an egg, but to live young, tail first, just like a modern dolphin.
Not all theropods were giants. Compsognathus was a small, nimble hunter of insects and lizards, about the size of a chicken.
The relationship between the giants and their environment was deeply symbiotic. Each shaped the other.
The ginkgo tree, a living fossil, was a common food source, its fan-shaped leaves providing crucial nutrients.
The claws of a theropod like Allosaurus were not just for killing, but for gripping and holding struggling prey.
A moment of quiet grooming. A small ornithopod of the Lielosauria genus uses its beak to preen and clean itself.
The strength of a sauropod's neck was immense, supported by a complex system of muscles and ligaments, and lightened by air sacs.
The jaws of Allosaurus were not designed for a bone-crushing bite, but for a rapid, slashing attack, like a hatchet.
Life finds a way, even in the most unexpected places. Small plants take root in a crack in a sleeping sauropod's skin.
A sudden downpour sends smaller creatures running for cover, while the giants stand impassively, barely noticing the rain. The world after the rain was fresh and clean, the air thick with the smell of wet earth and vegetation.
The largest pterosaurs of the Jurassic were still modest in size compared to their Cretaceous descendants, but they were masters of the air.
A silent moment of connection. The tiny Archaeopteryx finds sustenance, while the giant sauropod rests.
The transition from the Jurassic to the Cretaceous was gradual, marked by a minor extinction event that affected marine life most severely.
On land, the dinosaurs continued to thrive, but the cast of characters was slowly changing.
The Age of Giants was a masterpiece of evolution. a world that pushed the boundaries of biological possibility. The nervous system of a sauropod was a marvel, transmitting signals along a spinal cord over 100 feet long.
A second, enlarged nerve cluster in the hips, once mistaken for a second brain, acted as a relay station. A river crossing was a moment of high drama, forcing the herd to navigate currents and potential aquatic threats. The force of the water against their immense bodies was a significant danger, capable of sweeping even a giant off its feet. The herd succeeds, reaching the far bank exhausted but intact, the shared challenge strengthening their social bonds.
The teeth of carnivores like Ceratosaurus were replaced every few months, ensuring they always had a set of sharp weapons.
An Allosaurus patiently sharpens its claws by scraping them against a large rock, a deliberate act of weapon maintenance. The night sky was brilliant, free from atmospheric and light pollution, with the Milky Way stretching from horizon to horizon. Meteors, remnants from the formation of the solar system, would have been a common and spectacular sight. In the silence of the deep night, the planet itself seemed to breathe, a living world of immense power and peace. The coastal ecosystems were rich with life, including primitive sea turtles with less developed shells than their modern counterparts.
The Solnhofen limestone in Germany provides a unique snapshot of this coastal life, preserving fossils in exquisite detail.
Each fossil is a captured moment, a story of a single life and death from 150 million years ago.
The sex of a dinosaur is nearly impossible to determine from fossils alone, but differences in size or ornamentation may be clues.
A courtship ritual may have involved complex displays, using subtle movements, sounds, or colored skin flaps to attract a mate.
Intelligence of sauropods is often underestimated. Their complex social herds would have required a significant degree of social intelligence.
The world's first lizards had appeared, small, agile creatures that scurried at the feet of the dinosaurs. The Age of Giants was also an age of beginnings, with the ancestors of many modern groups quietly carving out their existence.
A dust bath was a way to clean the skin and deter parasites.
Their world was loud. The low-frequency calls of the giants, combined with the sounds of wind, water.
The discovery of feathered, non-avian dinosaurs has revolutionized our understanding, blurring the line between reptile and bird.
Every detail, from the way light filtered through the canopy to the texture of the mud, was part of a world we can now only visit in our imagination.
The end of the Jurassic was not an end for the dinosaurs, but merely the closing of a chapter, a transition to a new world with new challenges.
The Age of Giants left an indelible mark on the planet, a high point of biological creativity.
The enormous thigh bones, or femurs, of sauropods were among the largest bones ever to exist on land, built to carry immense weight.
The posture of predatory dinosaurs like Allosaurus was horizontal, with the body balanced perfectly over the hips by its long, heavy tail. A moment of frustration. The tough shell proves a formidable opponent, forcing the small pterosaur to
Fossilized skin impressions are rare, but they show that many dinosaurs were not covered in uniform scales, but a variety of bumps and textures.
The process of fossilization is incredibly rare. For every animal preserved, millions more vanished without a trace.
Each fossil is a winning lottery ticket against oblivion, a precious message from a world we would otherwise never know.
The concept of a dinosaur graveyard, a concentration of many skeletons, is often the result of a drought or a flash flood that trapped a herd.
A moment of interspecies interaction. The small ornithopod moves safely among the legs of the giant sauropods, using them as cover from predators.
The coloration of dinosaurs is unknown, but it was likely varied, serving for camouflage, species recognition, and
A key feature that separates dinosaurs from other reptiles is their erect, upright stance, with their legs positioned directly.
The Jurassic World, for all its strangeness, was governed by the same rules of nature that govern our world today.
The climate was generally warm and monsoonal, but some polar regions would have experienced cooler temperatures and even darkness in the winter.
These polar dinosaurs may have been adapted for the cold, or they may have undertaken immense migrations to follow the sun.
The juvenile sauropod investigates the unfamiliar shape with a gentle nudge, a brief moment of connection before boredom sets in.
The powerful hind legs of a predator like Allosaurus allowed for surprising bursts of speed, crucial for ambushing fast-moving prey.
The bond between a parent and its young, a driving force of life, was likely present even in these ancient reptiles.
Ophrin. The world's oceans were rising during the Jurassic, flooding continental interiors and creating vast, shallow seas.
This inland sea was home to giant marine predators, like the Pliosaurus, a true sea monster.
The Jurassic period lasted for more than 55 million years, a span of time almost incomprehensibly vast. Within that time, countless generations of giants lived and died, each one a unique life on a planet teeming with vitality.
The story of this era is still being uncovered, with new discoveries every year adding detail to the picture of this lost world.
The small horns over the eyes of Allosaurus were likely for display, a way to signal fitness and identity to others of its species.
This is a moment of peace in the Jurassic. A mixed herd, sauropods, stegosaurs, and ornithopods.
The largest flying reptiles had wings made of a membrane of skin, muscle, and fiber, stretched over a single, elongated fourth finger.
Launching such a large body into the air was a challenge, likely requiring a powerful, four-limbed push-off from the ground.
The world of the giants reminds us of the planet's immense capacity for change, and the ephemeral nature of dominance.
Bathed in the soft light of the golden hour, the Allosaurus drinks. A moment of perfect stillness.
The gizzard stones, or gastroliths, found with sauropod skeletons, are smooth and polished from tumbling in. The long claws on the thumbs of early ornithopods like Camptosaurus may have been used for defense or for pulling down branches.
The patterns of light and shadow in a Jurassic forest would have been a living, breathing tapestry, constantly shifting. To look back at the Jurassic is to see a world at its peak, a perfectly balanced, self-sustaining ecosystem of giants.
The small, five-fingered hands of sauropods were arranged in a column, with only the thumb finger having a claw used for grip.
The world's first salamanders hunted in the cool, shady streams, their bodies and lifestyles almost unchanged to this day. An Allosaurus yawns, a surprisingly mundane behavior for such a fearsome predator, its huge mouth gaping wide for a moment.
The tail of a Stegosaurus was not dragged, but held high, its powerful muscles allowing it to be swung with great speed and accuracy.
The cycles of the moon would have governed the nocturnal world, its waxing and waning light changing the balance between hunter and hunted. The air was different. Higher oxygen levels, perhaps up to 30%, fueled the gigantism.
Dinosaurs flee the fire, their primal fear of the flames overriding the normal dynamics of predator and prey in a shared rush for safety.
But from the ashes, life would return with renewed vigor, the fire clearing the way for a new generation of plants.
The sense of hearing in most dinosaurs was tuned for low-frequency sounds, the deep rumbles made by other giants.
The story of the Jurassic is ultimately a story of connection between the land, the climate, the plants, and
the immense weight of a full-grown sauropod would have put enormous strain on its joints, making arthritis a common ailment in old age.
Though immense in stature, the years have taken their toll. This elder of the herd struggles with every
Predators, with their keen sense for weakness, would often target these old, slow, or sick individuals, culling the herd. But there is dignity in the struggle, a testament to a life lived on a scale that beggars belief, a final stand against the inevitable. The Jurassic flora lacked the diversity of modern ecosystems. Without grasses or flowers,
This low-nutrient vegetation is one reason the herbivores had to be so large, with huge digestive tracts to extract every bit of energy.
A moment of quiet reflection. A plesiosaur floats just below the surface of a calm sea.
The world of the Jurassic was ancient, but the rocks that formed it are still with us, the foundations of our own modern world.
Their time has passed, but their story is a timeless epic,
of survival. This was the peak of their long reign, the high summer of the dinosaurs. This was the age of giants.